talk about DPI, right? But before that, I've seen this sentiment within students since I'm into upskilling and mentorship. I've seen that sentiment between students or emerging young professionals that the awareness regarding DPI is very less, right? Maybe it's not a topic of interest and people directly want to hop on ChatGPT, Claude, but hardly they want to understand about DPI. Now, why this topic is very important for the people in the room, I mean, whatever you are using, if you are using your Aadhaar for identification, right? Or if you're using your UPI for payments, all those things work on the top of this digital public infrastructure, which we call DPI. And the question for today is that we have been collecting a lot of data now through Aadhaars. We have been recording a lot of transactions now through UPI. And now government or governments has a lot of data, but how do you create insights from these data, which is, I think, the broader topic that you want to talk about, right? That how do you use AI with DPI for governments, which is a bigger problem we are trying to solve. In first decade was about access, infrastructure. I think the next decade would be about intelligence, outcome, and trust, right? So before we hop on to the topic, I would request the panelists to talk a little bit about the technology when it comes to the basic AI technology which is being used behind DPIs. How does that technology looks like? Like a lot of panelists before this session talked about that we are, that there's some tech which is US based, some tech which is India based. So how does that adoption looks like if you are using Indian solutions? Then that adoption is looking like, and how we can see that by 2030. So if you can throw some light on that.
Thanks a lot, Rajan, and it has been a pleasure. And obviously, a lot of very good discussions around Chat GPT. So I come from a complete OEM background, AI, Chat GPT, co-pilots and all from Microsoft, and we have been doing for a long time. And it's a very good question when you talk about DPI. We all use Aadhaar, we all use DigiLocker, we are also using UPI, we also have Aadhaar, we also have NDPA. These are a couple of things that we keep on using, and many other things are part of it, which is digital public infrastructure. So when we talk about it, and one of the panelists really rightly mentioned saying that, hey, you know what? AI we all have been using for a long time, but we are not even aware. So for example, I'll take an example when you talk about, say, DigiLocker. So when DigiLocker works, DigiLocker has got all your documents. Say, for example, in COVID time, if you remember, many of the offices were closed, right? Or people started moving from big buildings to small co-working places. You go and work for co-working places. If you open a new co-working place as a founder, as a new startup you are creating, you would like to do the verification of whosoever is coming and leasing out that space. So what you can do is that you can integrate with DigiLocker. Now DigiLocker, if you look in the background, it is scanning all the documents, it is storing all the document. Afterwards, it is exposing an API which can get integrated. So what are the things that are happening? DigiLocker in the background is running on public clouds. Now, there are a lot of, when we talk about public cloud, normally people think, hey, public cloud is there, so my data is getting exposed, anybody can look. No. If you look at how in India, even before DPDP came into picture, public cloud has always been vetted by Metvy and others, which mandates data cannot go out. Authentication or PII data cannot go out of boundaries of India. So what it does is that when the validation happens, it makes sure transaction, PII data, any of the data cannot be outside the boundaries of the country. And each and every OEM, wherever it is hosted, they have to make sure it is within that. That's how the public cloud architecture is created so that we can maintain that sanity. Now comes the question how AI is coming. So all these data now is being scanned. Why it is being scanned? Because you would have seen a lot of Aadhaar cards Same Aadhaar card number, different photographs, or same guy has got multiple Aadhaar cards. So what we are doing right now is that, or the government wants to do is weed out these sort of the duplicacies. How would you do that? You will have to use artificial intelligence to weed out these sort of the duplicate entities which are present. So once again, for a consumer or a customer, it is not, you can say transparent or we don't know. But behind the curtain, there are technologies which are working. It is using facial recognition when you are trying to do an integration as a co-working place. So once again, there is a technology which is linked to artificial intelligence, which was Rajan, hope I think I didn't go into a long monologue.
No. I think it was really interesting. The example that you gave of Aadhaar, that there are multiple Aadhaars with the same ID, and AI will help us to detect that. I think beautifully answered. My question is to Kanika, right? Because Kanika has worked in health space as well, right? She was working on a DPI blueprint for health sector. So, Kanika, can you introduce us to some AI use cases when it comes to DPI in health tech? Some things that you've worked on, or research projects or pilot projects.
Sure. But a question to the room: how many people here have an Abha ID? Can I get a show of hands? Barely any, but please go back and check. You will have an Abha ID. That is the exact foundation of the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. And if I were to look at a blueprint for health, a DPI health blueprint, a digital identity system like an Aadhaar or an Abha ID links everything that has to do with the health system. Now, when you have that ID, what that enables is that every patient can now have a longitudinal health record, which means when you go to a hospital, you don't need to carry a bundle of your past papers, your prescriptions, your lab test results, your X-rays, etc. All of that is digital, and this is nothing new. We've seen that with DigiLocker. It's a wallet. It's a wallet concept. So just like you have a wallet for your driver's license, your voter ID, your school certificates, etc., you need a health wallet to store your prescriptions, to your past medical records, etc. Again, like ma'am explained, how we have different components of DPI. These are those same foundational rails. We have a data sharing mechanism, which is known as HCX in health. We have the wallet system. We have a consent system. Do I want to share my prescription with the doctor? I will share it for a limited period of time and only the required information with the doctor. The doctor will also have an ID system. They will have a verifiable credential. How do I know that this doctor is not a fraud? How do I know what his skill set is? How do I know he's qualified to treat me? So this entire architecture, the linkages of people in this ecosystem, whether it's an ambulance driver for disaster response, whether it's a nurse who's administering you medication, whether it's the batch ID for the medicine, all of this is interconnected. How do you identify fraud? Let me talk about an AI use case in pharmaceuticals. Is that how do you know that this exact medicine that I'm just about to consume is not fake, it's not duplicate? You should have a QR code on the back of the medicine. You should be able to check who's the manufacturer, what's the make and origin of it, when does it get expired, and whether it's authentic or not. All of these are AI use cases. Another use case, I think somebody in the last panel, I think, spoke about is that when you're sitting outside in the waiting area of a hospital, and before you go to see the doctor, there is an AI use case for triage which recently won an award with Bhashini. Is that you can actually explain your symptoms to the system in whatever language possible for you, vernacular or not, and it will summarize the symptoms for the doctor, send that summary to the doctor even before you enter to see the doctor. That's an AI use case in health. Predict routing for ambulance when there is traffic congestion. AI in mobility and healthcare. So there are countless use cases where DPI couples with AI to actually unlock value that, and the citizen doesn't need to see this. For the citizen, it's convenience. They don't need to potentially understand what DPI is and what AI component is doing for them. The idea is to make it so seamless and so silent in the background that it doesn't feel like friction. That's the idea.
Got it. So this brings me to one more question, which I would want Amrita you to answer when we talk about UPI, when we talk about ABHA ID and all. I see that there's a lot of interoperability of data, which means that the data which has been collected through UPI or maybe through other DPI protocol can be used by some other sector, right? So right now, how does data is moving from one, let's say, tech to another tech, and how AI is going to change this game in coming years?
Right. So when you talk about data, we earlier panels spoke about how data is important, how the game is all about data and data sets. To a certain extent, yes. But the main thing that is there is that how you make data talk to each other. So when you are able to create this interoperability between different sort of the data that you have collected, one place you have a medical history, one place you have somebody's financial data, your bank account number, your UPI ID which is used, then you are using your credentials. So this sort of a data, there has to be a mapping which is specific customer it is, which is specific citizen of India it is, and what are the records. So whenever I will say we have still not done or reached to a stage where all the data is able to talk to each other. And that is one of the reasons why we are not able to unleash the next generation of innovation. The day we will be able to go and remove these silos, let the data talk to each other using the same sort of the standards. One of the reasons, Rajan, I'll tell you why it is not because we don't want to do. Most of the time, what happens is that it is all about the governance. It is all about, hey, whether my data is going to be secure if I'm making it talk to another entity's data. So, whenever we are deciding these systems, there has to be an implementation of responsible AI, a complete governance layer. So, when you decide or you start doing the envisioning right from the governance layer and you come down to data, you will find that all the questions that comes up will be resolved.
Right. So this also brings us to a very interesting point, which is data talking to data can lead to a situation where there is autonomous decision making by AI, right? Through algorithms, we might create algorithms which might, classify that, let's say, in education, which people are qualified for scholarship, which people are not qualified for scholarship, right? And that decision making maybe over a period of time happens through AI, which again makes us to think about the responsible AI, right? That how do we keep these control and check mechanisms on these algorithms, and to what extent do you think that we'll be able to maintain that?
Okay, very good question. When you talk about autonomous, lot of people believe AI means all the decision will be taken autonomously by these agents. No. When you decide on the governance layer, what you do a categorization by them. What you say is that this is something which is happening on a repeated basis. The mundane jobs. You have decided what action, by what time, when. You have decided. Those are the things agents will do on their own. But when you go ahead and deal with any unique situations, what will happen? It will create a set of recommendations for you. Recommended next step. It will not take a call on its own. It will present to the human, hey, I have gone ahead, looked at the data, sensed it, reasoned it, recommending it. This is possible. Now your call. You use your intelligence, your experience, and select the option that you want. So, agents are never ever going to overpower human intelligence. There is simply no parallel or equivalence of human brain. It will always there as a master to decide and reject or select or accept, I should say, which specific recommendation is being selected, is being suggested.
Got it. So again, it brings us to one more important point, and I think Kanika, my question, this particular question, is for you because you've been working with governments, right, consulting them on AI. The thing is that not a lot of people have been trained in this skill set, which is now I will talk about capacity building, right? Because even if you are in government and you want to work with AI, which is attached to DPI, you need to have your internal team trained in these, technologies. And as so, are we seeing shortage of talent as of now, or do you think that there's sufficient talent right now in the country which can help us to scale it from pilot to population?
Thank you for that question. And I want to approach it slightly differently. So I don't think that talent is a problem, but I do think that upskilling is. You can't. Let's talk about that Supreme Court example that Sir spoke about in the last session. You can outsource or you can buy AI. You can buy those tools. You can't buy judgment. Not every officer is required to do coding or learn machine learning or have the tech background to do it as well. What they do need to understand and know is what AI can and cannot do. What does bias look like? What does a good architecture look like? You can't outsource that. The government needs to create that capability. Especially today, when kids in school are learning AI and they're learning robotics, and I heard a few colleagues of mine say that their kids have been assigned a course where they program Lego blocks to build like small robots. They're collaborative robots. Irrespective of age, I feel like AI literacy is so important, whether it's a corporate like ours, whether it's the government, whether it's schools, whether it's healthcare or any other sector like that. It's so important that you can't escape that. You can use AI to, reduce friction in your work, but if you don't know how to correctly use it, like the Supreme Court example, you can't outsource that judgment. So you need to have those intelligence cells. You need to have that war rooms where you learn rapidly, you reiterate, and you apply it. AI is there and it's vast. If you don't know how to use it, how to apply it for public service delivery, and especially when we're talking about digital public infrastructure, I don't think that you can scale as fast. I don't think you can cause that impact as fast as necessary.
So this brings us to the last segment of the discussion, which is a rapid fire. I only have one question, and I want you guys to answer in only one word, right? So, and this question is for both of you. So, one AI use case which every state should apply in next 3 years.
I think 3 years is too long. The ship has sailed, but I think citizen vulnerability assessment is something that every state should do. We have so much data, personal, financial, social backgrounds, literacy levels. I don't think if you can predict which family or which person is at the risk of vulnerability of falling through, whether financially, emotionally, socially, if you're not doing that already, using all the data you already have, then you're failing. And we don't have 3 years to do that.
What about you?
Well, I would say revolution in the field of agriculture. That is something I would be looking forward to. Being adopted, it has to move. We have done enough pilots. It's a time to move away from pilots and get into production because it will make huge change to the lives of the farmer, the sort of the benefits we can bring to the table. Also, given one of the panelists spoke about how water tables are really going down and we are facing an issue. And you would know that a lot of areas right now are on the verge of desertification. Right? How can you go ahead and stop that unless and until you take a really concrete step? And these are the ones that has to be done on a, yeah, I'll say on a very critical level.
Right. So with this, we are coming to the end of the segment. As we know that through DPI, our country has already built the digital rails, right? But I think by these discussions, by people who are in the room, we'll be soon able to run the trains of AI on those rails, right? And I think the process has already been started. So thank you for giving us your time, and it was great listening to both of you.
Thank you, Rajan.
Thank you, everyone.